All right, it's a pretty regular spot now that we talk about Louisville football here on College Football Addiction. Appreciate BetUS for their support, and we'll talk a little bit about this Louisville Clemson game. Jeremy, how's it going, bud?
It's it's going well. Victory Monday after a victory. I know you've not really got to experience that too much, but for me, I'm just happy we didn't go up there and blow it. Like I really thought. I said last Monday, I thought we were gonna, we've had some difficult times playing up there. So happy to have won by no matter how many points. Thank goodness their kicker missed the extra point, or the outcome of the game could have been way different.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that BC game before we talk about
Sure.
Clemson, and not going super far into it because we do now. We talked about this. Road games on a Friday night in conference are just weird, and weird things happen, right? And especially going back, like BC's had some, we've had some weird ones up there too. And so, don't want to read so much into it, but how much it needed a big comeback to end up getting it done, and they got it right. And so I think you do get credit for the comeback, but at the same time, how much concern is it that you needed a big comeback, or that was it hey, we just didn't show up, we weren't focused, was it mistakes? Like, what was the issue to start the game?
Well, it was definitely mistakes on their first three scoring drives. They started pretty good field position because of we had Tyler Shuck try to throw the ball out of bounds. It got picked off, which is uncharacteristic of him. Then Amari Huggins of Bruce caught a big pass across the middle. He fumbled it. So we set him up pretty well. So there's really no excuse other than we didn't take care of the ball the first half. So once we got everything, it was about halfway through the second quarter. We started tightening up on defense, and there were a couple of big miscues coverage wise, but we did. Uh, as I said last week, we needed to tighten up the tackling between the D line and the secondary, and I could not be more happy with the way that went. Again, there was like one. I'm trying to count in my head one, maybe two plays where one of our guys just elapsed, just wasn't paying attention, and it led to a big plays down the field. But I was actually happy with how we made the adjustments and went on to just completely dominate the rest of the game.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense, right? Like you're never going to be perfect, right? It's very
Right.
tough to expect perfection. And so, yeah, you are going to have screw ups, and you are going to mess up, and you are going to play poorly at times. And if you can rebound from it, it's especially great when you can do it in the same game and you can steal a win. Rhett Lashley kind of did, but you don't really apologize for winning,
Right,
like,
right, absolutely.
and did SMU deserve to win this weekend? Probably not, but they found a way to do it, so you don't apologize for it, but it does, when you can come back and you can get a big win, it certainly can propel you into the next week. And, that's probably a good transition for this. 5-3 on the season. We've talked about the three losses, three incredibly close losses to ranked good teams. But if you could win this one, and I know there's a big one the last weekend of November. I know that there's other games like, you're not going to hear Brown come out and say like, well, we want this much. But if they could win this one on the road, it would take what's kind of this is an okay to good season. It would kind of catapult it up to, okay, this ends up being really impressive because you go on the road and you beat a top 10 team that's a double digit favorite. And that, we can tell the truth here. No one is picking Louisville in this game, from a national perspective. Everyone just thinks they're walking the Lions Den. And, teams don't go into Death Valley and win very often. So I get it. But this one just feels like, man, if Louisville could find a way in this one, I don't know that it erases what happened earlier in the year, but it certainly makes it a little more palatable.
Absolutely. I'm not really sure who we played the last game of the year. Somebody, a team that we don't really acknowledge very often. But
I will get right back to chatting with Jeremy, but first, let me give our friends over at BetUS some love. You can go to BetUS right now and use our code YouTube150. That's YouTube150 to get a 150% bonus on your first deposit. Your next two deposits, you get a 125% bonus. All three of those up to $2,000. Right now, Louisville is a 11.5-point dog to Clemson, and you can bet either side of that line, again, at BetUS, using our code YouTube150 for one of the best bonuses in the game. They've got some of the best customer service, some of the best lines, and you will not be disappointed. Appreciate BetUS for their support.
We do have to acknowledge they've kicked our butts the last couple of years, so we'll just stop talking about those idiots. Anyway, yeah, it does turn a ho hum season into a successful filling season for those who are uber critical, and we live in a society now that if you don't win every game by 21 points, you suck. It's just I call it the PlayStation uh, era because everybody's expecting to win 69-0, and then you don't, and it's fire this guy, fire that guy. But yeah, it sucks because the three losses as we spoke before, the three losses we've had this season were three really good three ranked teams. I have no idea why they refuse to put Pittsburgh any higher in the polls than they are, but we'll save that for another time. Uh, but yeah, it does turn the season around. But I'm already expecting us to lose this game by a touchdown because that's what we've done with every other ranked team on the schedule this year.
Yeah, play them tough, play them close, and then just not have enough to finish, which again, maybe after the big comeback last week, that can kind of switch. They do also get obviously the extra day of rest. I don't know how much that matters, but it is something. Clemson, though, coming off of a bye, I guess they've had an entire week to rest.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of that, how is I know they've battled some things here and there through the year. Health wise, Louisville in pretty good shape coming into this thing, or any key injuries or worries there?
We have our just the same ones we've had. Tight end Jamari Johnson, he was a 5-star guy that flipped from Oregon to Louisville before the season. Not this season, the last season. He's out for the year with his knee. Wide receiver Jaden Thompson, he's been out since week 2 or 3. I'm trying to sit here and think. I think everybody else is back healthy. Monroe Mills, one of our best offensive linemen, he returned to the lineup against Boston College. So I still feel like we're going to be pretty healthy. We did have a wide receiver decide to just not play the rest of the year, but he was our number 2 guy, Colin Lacey. The word is that he is trying. Apparently, so he got hurt in the Notre Dame, or he got hurt at the beginning of the season. Before the season, he was targeted to come back the Notre Dame game. He's played very limited since. He did return that kickoff against Miami for a touchdown, but I just don't believe he was fully healthy, and he didn't want to risk injuring himself further. The speculation as of now is that he's going to return to the Cards next year. I hope that's the case. He's dynamite in a bottle, and we could really use him next year, especially with all these other guys that we've got that won't. Amari Huggins, Bruce, Ja'Cory Brooks. I don't believe either one of them have another year left, so he'll be key to retain. But as far as injuries, which was your initial question, I think we're pretty healthy for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. Probably the best defense I think you guys will have seen this year, although Notre Dame's probably up there as well. And you guys, were, wouldn't say like lighting the world on fire, but played okay in that matchup. And just thoughts on, what it'll take to, go up against a really good defense on the road. Tyler Shuck has had a good year. We'll talk about the QBs here in a minute, but just thoughts on the matchup with their defense, which, defense has been a staple of Clemson football for a while, and certainly here under the last 10 years or so of Dabo.
Absolutely. I want to go back to something really quick first. Something we talked about a couple of episodes. You told me Miami fans were mad at me because I said our lines were pretty even. If you go back and look at the stats for that game, they were pretty even. Anyway, that just stuck in my. I'm like, dude, that's the exact definition of being even. We allowed the same amount of sacks. Our guy threw more passing yards than your guy. Your guy threw more touchdowns than our guy. That's even. That's a very fair. I wasn't trying to throw any shade at Miami. They do that for themselves enough. But back to the question about Clemson. I would put them and Notre Dame up there together, and I know that'll probably make the Miami fans mad too, but oh well. They are probably one of the best defensive lines we're going to face. Thank goodness we've got our offensive line at full strength going against them. I want to sit here and have more confidence, but I have to see a little bit of continuity. I have to see us repeat, because our defense played really well. I know the scoreboard giving up 20 something points doesn't look like it, but they were putting some pretty hard um, positions for those 4 scores. Again, one of them was just a guy, I forgot who he was supposed to cover, touchdown. But the first 3, they got the ball at midfield, and it's hard to stop any team, let alone a decent. Boston College is a decent team. People forget that they played really well to start the season off. Um, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we beat a horrible Boston College team. We beat a good, not really good. I don't want to give them too much credit. We beat a good Boston College team up there. We were 3-5 all time at Boston College going into the game, so that was a place we'd stumbled before. But back to Clemson, it's going to be tough. We normally play fairly decent at Death Valley, but I'm going to need to see us repeat the defensive growth from this past week, and I'm going to need to see our offense take care of the ball a little bit better, because we did not take care of the ball. Excuse me. Turn the ball over 3 times. We did not get force a turnover versus Boston College. We cannot do that against Clemson. If we turn the ball over 3 times, we're looking at being down probably about 30 points.
Yeah. When you look at the QB battle, you mentioned the turnovers, but Tyler and Cade, pretty similar stat lines. Tyler has 500 more yards. Cade has a couple less interceptions. Both have exactly 20 touchdowns through the air. This is honestly, and I know Ward is down there as, maybe the best in the conference, but not maybe. He's, the best in the conference. Let's not get the Miami fans mad at me. Let's keep them mad at you. But when you look at QB matchups in the ACC, this is one of the better QB matchups we've gotten all year. And Chuck and Ward was one of the best ones too. Don't get me wrong, but this is another really good one. 2 20 touchdown quarterbacks, guys that are both right around 2,000 yards passing so far for the year. How well do you think Louisville's defense does against Cade and some of the weapons that they have offensively?
Well, I mean, you say Cam's the number 1 in the conference, but Tyler's outpassed him the last 2 weeks. So I don't. No, I'm just kidding, Miami.
I was gonna say, bro, I might have to clip that out because we'll just be sending you death threats at that point.
No, I love the city of Miami. We've probably 10 out of the top 25 best all-time players at Louisville have come from that area, so I don't have any beef with those dudes. Yeah, I think that, again, for me, I've always been a can you show me improvement type guy. I'm not a hype guy. I didn't come to the season thinking, oh, we're gonna destroy everybody, this and that. Even on our show, you heard me week 3. I'm gonna have to see us do this against better competition before I'm ready to say, oh, this guy's good, this guy's great. Make no mistake about it, though, Clemson, I think, is the best team we are going to play all year. I think this is the best quarterback matchup so far. Well, I don't know. I can't say that, though, because if Cam's number 1 and in my head Tyler's number 2, that would have been the best one. But this is going to be a really good matchup.
If Louisville is able to find a way to win this game, what have they done well? What has gone right for them? And like, maybe give me your I guess a better way to ask that is just your biggest key to the game to try and pull the upset.
This is going to sound very elementary, and this is going to sound like
football is a simple game that's very hard to do. So I'll let you get away with that.
It's going to sound very simple. We have got to tackle. We have got to tackle. We tackled good against Boston College. We did not tackle good against Miami. Yeah. That was the deciding factor in the game. So if we can tackle the keys of the game are tackle and force more turnovers than you give up. And I think we have a good shot at being right. I mean, we've played with the number 5 team in the country right down to the wire. Notre Dame's in the top 10, I think. SMU's going up. And we still, like you said, we've got a couple more chances on the schedule to rectify what feels like you should be proud at this point. You do have 3 losses, all by 1 score, all the top 25 teams, but it's still, to your normal fan, feels like, 5-3 sucks.
Sure.
They're going to be overcritical of it. Me, as a former D1 athlete, as a football, you call me an expert. That's on you. I've never said that about myself out loud. But I'm okay with where we are right now. I don't want this to be the norm, but I'm okay with having 3 losses all by a touchdown but I do not want to lose to Clemson and Pittsburgh by a touchdown also.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a trend. Uh, but yeah, that's it. Make sure you force more turnovers than you give up. Which goes into ball security and tackling. And I think it's a pretty good game at that point.
Couple quick thoughts on that. One is, yeah, it worries me, because Miami's running backs had some success, and I do think that I think they're. Oh boy, I do not want to get yelled at by the Clemson fans. I think Miami's running backs may be slightly more skilled than Maffa, but Maffa's just a little more of a bruiser. But I wouldn't put either Damian Martinez or Mark Fletcher or Phil Maffa like way above like I think they're all kind of up there in the ACC.
Right.
And all so like Clemson fans, don't get mad at me for still giving your guy a lot of credit and saying he's kind of up there in the ACC. But yeah, but I do worry about that. Like, okay, maybe what he lacks a little bit in shiftiness, he might make up for in just brute force. And if you struggle to tackle those other guys, like if this guy's stronger and bigger, like, okay, like you just gotta be a little more fundamental with wrapping up and tackling and gang tackling to get that guy down at times, because he is a big bruising back that can run through people. So that I agree with that. I worry about that for Louisville. Can they stop that rushing attack? Because if that rushing attack is going, then Cade is going to have a nice day through the air. When he's not had good games in his career is when they've been one dimensional. And so if Louisville can slow that run, then I do think that they'll have a little more success defensively. The other thing, if somebody, the general rule is the 10,000 hour rule. So on the expert thing, I know you've spent 10,000 hours in your lifetime doing this, probably a few 10,000 hours if we stack it all up between playing and film and talking about it and everything else. So I don't, maybe I could write 3 times expert. I haven't done the math, but yeah, anybody that gets mad at me for the expert thing, which I really don't think anybody has. I know you were just joking, but I'll defend your honor there, Jeremy, on that one.
I appreciate that. It's just we have to be consistency. I said continuity earlier. Consistency was the word I was looking for. Is what we need to have going forward to make this a season where everybody's happy with it. Again, your football purists, the people that know football, they're happy right now. They're not ecstatic that we've lost 3 games, but they're happy.
Sure.
To satisfy even the most fickle of fans, gonna have to beat Pittsburgh, which is not looking like it's an easy task, and we're gonna have to hang with Clemson. And I know that sounds futile, like I've already accepted the loss. I mean, I put out the betting odds piece for CardinalSportsZone.com yesterday. It goes anywhere from Clemson 7.5 to Clemson 13. So it's a pretty wide range right there. Obviously, it'll adjust towards game time, but if we can play within that 7.5, I'm going to be okay with that as long as we are continuing to build on the things that have caused us issues this season.
Right now, ESPN says that Louisville has a 69% chance to beat Pittsburgh. Obviously, that game at home, which is a big help. But the Pittsburgh fans have been funny in the comments. I've been doing a series. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been doing a series breaking down like the ACC. Like if there's a 3-way tie, well, because Pittsburgh plays Clemson and SMU, there's no way that Pittsburgh could be involved in the 3-way tie. That doesn't mean they don't control their own destiny. If they win out, they will be in the ACC championship game against Miami. But they can't be in this one really weird, random, specific scenario. That the scenario only exists because the ACC took divisions away. If not, you'd have divisions and everybody would have head to head, and you wouldn't have what you have now with 3 teams undefeated in the conference. It would be impossible if you had divisions. And so I'm doing this series, and every week the Pittsburgh fans are like, "You're disrespecting us," and I'm like, every episode I say all Pittsburgh has to do is win out and they're in. But I'm just telling you, like, they can't be part of this 3-way tie because they played 2 of the teams. And so anyway, but all that said, even ESPN thinks you guys win that one. And so the Pittsburgh fans are all mad every week. And I'm just like, well, you guys are like underdogs in 3 more games. I think I don't want to take away from what Pittsburgh has done, but I need them to beat somebody that has a pulse for me to, crown them just yet. There's a reason Pittsburgh still has the fourth best odds to win the ACC. And if they can win, if they go on the road and beat SMU this week, then I think people will take them a little more seriously. But they'd still have to beat, they'd still have to go beat Clemson at that point. They'd have to beat you guys at that point, which they're underdogs. They're underdogs 3 more times. They're an undefeated team that's an underdog 3 more times in conference.
That's crazy.
It's not disrespectful. It just, Navy was undefeated last week too, and that was a really good story. And then we saw what happened, right? Like, just because you're undefeated doesn't necessarily mean that you should play for the national title or whatever, right? So I don't know. The Pittsburgh fans are gonna be pissed off at this one, but whatever. They'll live. It's really early in the week. We do these on Monday, but I'll be honest with you. I'm leaning Clemson in this one. I kind of like Louisville to cover. I'm not so sold on Clemson just yet. I kind of like Louisville to cover. I like Clemson to win the game. Do you have an early lean or an early pick in this one?
Well, first off, Pittsburgh fans, you all should be a little bit less uptight. You all have the Steelers, which is my favorite team. Love the Steelers. They're playing really good. They're playing really good defense right now. And speaking of defense, this is a segue, as we call it in the business. The Cards are going to have to play great defense. We go to your point earlier. You talked about how we had issues with Miami's running backs because they were a little more shifty. We do play the Bruisers a little bit better, so I'm not so worried about and as soon as I say that, their running back will shoot off for like a 60-yard rushing touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
I also have watched Clemson this year and haven't been super I've been impressed, but I've not been like, like years before when I was like, man, this is a dominant Clemson team. So I'm still, as of right now, I'm picking them to win. I have to pick them by 7 because that's what we've lost all the other ranked teams by. But if we can, and we shouldn't. That's the one thing that gets me. We are 8 games in the season. There shouldn't still be things that we need to work on, right? So, but there are, and we saw some of those get fixed this past week. So if they can keep that up, it may be a closer game than we're expecting. But crazy things happen at night during the Louisville Clemson game. We've played pretty well down there. Lamar and Deshaun had a really good shootout.
That was awesome.
A few, probably one of my favorite losses in a Louisville game ever. So yeah, I'm picking Clemson right now, and I'm probably making my fans mad, but I can't pick us to win every game, especially when I'm not sure, and I'm still not sure that we've got everything fixed. So yeah, I'm picking Clemson by 7.
Jeremy, where can people follow you? Where can they find more of your work?
Absolutely. They can find all of our work at cardinalsportzone.com. You can follow our YouTube show at Cardinal Sport. Just search for Cardinal Sports Zone. We go live every Friday night at 10:05 p.m. and every Sunday at 1 p.m. unless there's a bye week, which there is a bye week this next week. So we'll only have a Friday show this week.
We appreciate you a ton for hanging out. Appreciate again BetUS for their support on this video, and good luck this weekend, man. It should be a classic.
Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, you can follow me on Twitter at TJ Pittenger.
Don't do that. Terrible choice. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.